Hey, what's up guys? So I bought my first camera, the Sony A7 III. It was my dream camera since launch. I know this is not the first unboxing and impressions video that you have seen, but this video is going to be about my thoughts, why I chose this camera, and why I think it's the best mirrorless camera for both photos and video in this budget in 2021. Let's start off with the hardware first. This camera is rocking a 35mm full frame 24.2 megapixel sensor that can shoot up to 4K at 30 fps with no crop, and also it does 1080p at 120 frames per second for that super crisp slow motion. It's got 5-axis in-body stabilization, which really comes in handy if you shoot a lot of handheld stuff, and also if your lenses don't have image stabilization. And then you can't forget the articulating 3-inch LCD screen, which can be swiveled up or down for a low angle shot or a high angle shot, but it cannot be flipped completely around or flipped out, which is a bit downside if you really like to see yourself while filming, but it's not a big deal because autofocus on this camera is really good. There are 693 autofocus points for continuous and fast shooting. There is also eye autofocus for human portraits and also animal eye autofocus, so it keeps the eye locked in for better steady shots. For speed wise, this camera is really fast. As you may already know that the A7 III can shoot 10 frames per second burst, or if you wanna go crazy, change the drive mode to continuous and it will keep shooting pictures as long as your shutter is pressed. Speaking of slots, it has dual SD card slots. Slot 1 is fastest, it supports UHS 2 cards, and slot 2 is a bit slow, supports UHS 1 cards. The rest of the slots are familiar. Headphone jack for audio monitoring. It also has HDMI. It has USB Type-C that can be used for both charging as well as transferring files. Also has a micro USB, and lastly a microphone port. It has NFC, so if you have a phone with NFC, you can instantly transfer photos from your camera to your phone. All inside this metal body that can take a beating. It's built like an absolute tank. I mean, this is a seriously well-rounded mirrorless camera. As I have shot the unboxing when I bought it, by the time you are seeing this video, I've been already using this camera for more than 7 months now. So I've been taking pictures with it, shot some b-roll with it. You can grab some popcorn if you like, and here's the sequence. All of this was shot in 1080p, some clips were shot in 120 frames per second and others were shot in 30 fps. If you want to get full quality out of this camera, you can shoot in 4K at 24 frames per second. When shooting in 4K, it's actually a 6K sensor. It takes all the 6K resolution and it downscales it to a 4K file. You get a lot of details with it, and obviously the file sizes will be bigger too. So I've been using the Sony A7 III with the kit lens, which is the 28 to 70mm. For starters, it's a very good telephoto lens. It has built-in optical image stabilization. The sharpness and autofocus is pretty good. The build quality is nice. It's good for everyday use. The only downside is that it's a variable aperture lens, but the focal length is wide at 28mm, which is good. It's great for stills and maybe A-roll if you are just starting out. Also, I picked up a 50mm f1.8 lens because I wanted a prime lens with good shallow depth of field and also with some low light capabilities. This is the lens that I think every photographer and videographer might have used when they got started as a beginner. It's a very affordable Sony lens, comes around at a price of $233 in US or 17,500 rupees here in India, but it's a great prime lens for the price. Its fast 1.8 aperture really comes in handy for that shallow depth of field and in low light. I love the form factor. It's super small, portable and also lightweight. While this lens does not have image stabilization, but my A7 III has OIS, which is why I had no big problems using it. The only small problem is the autofocus motor, which is a bit slow and little noisy. Other than that, if you are just starting out, this is the best bang for your buck. The A7 III has a USB Type-C port which can be used to transfer photos and videos and also charge the camera. Having an ability to charge your camera with the power bank on the go is really helpful. The LCD screen back here is not super high resolution. It is still usable, but I wish it had more resolution. Sometimes the skin tones it shows doesn't look the same as original, and also with the exposure levels, but it does work and gets the job done. On the other hand, the EVF on this is OLED, so it displays true colors and is more accurate than the LCD screen. Then last but not the least, the battery life. The battery life of Sony A7 III is great. You can shoot 3 hours of 4K video and over 1,000 shots on full charge. This is by far the best battery life out of any mirrorless camera in the market. So bottom line with the Sony A7 III is, this has been the best hybrid mirrorless camera since it has launched for both photo and video, and it will be continuing to be the best for this year and forward, maybe until the A7 Mark IV launches. The image quality and autofocus are excellent. The in-body stabilization is pretty good. The E-mount lens selection has gotten big and best among the competition. It's really hard to beat the A7 III in this price bracket considering all the specs and features it offers. It's great for professionals for both photo and video, and also for YouTubers or someone who is looking for buying their first full-frame mirrorless camera. I know there are other new Sony cameras, the A7S III, which is more of a video-focused camera and is on the pricier side. The recently launched Alpha one, which is a crazy high-end $6,500 solely made for professional camera. But wait, the story doesn't end here. For these cameras, you not only need a really powerful editing machine, but also lots of storage. That is why Sony A7 III sits right in middle of the Sony's full-frame Alpha lineup, because all the video footage and photos are very manageable and all of the above features that I mentioned in this video. So that is it for the review for this camera. This was a long overdue video. If you want to see sample photos from this camera, you can follow me on Instagram. I do post a lot of photos related to tech and setups, flat lays over there. Link is in the description. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button below. Share this video if you can, and subscribe if you haven't already. More regular videos from now. See you in the next one.